What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here with Fitty Trent with AC. We're back for another NHL recap. We are here for the Music Wizard special. Hopefully Music Wizard is actually watching this video. We let him know about it. But we got the Music Wizard, who is the biggest NHL fan of the channel, and there are quite a few, but he is the one that's here day in and day out watching every single NHL video, leaving us comments, giving us love, and we wanted to show our love back to some of our subscribers, and this is why we are doing it. You know, the Tampa Bay Lightning versus the Detroit Red Wings doesn't scream a great game in 2017 with a team that's looking to get in the playoffs still and a team that's pretty much out of there. But, you know, it was an okay game, and we have quite a bit to talk about, at the very least. So let's get into it. First off, let's just ask AC what they thought of the game straight away.
Well, straight away, my thoughts on the game, I mean, it was kind of disappointing. I mean, I know that this was not supposed to be like a really big game, but honestly, I thought that the Lightning would have a little bit more intensity throughout the entire game because they're still competing for that last wild card spot in the East. I thought that they'd be coming out guns a-blazing. Meanwhile, you know, it took a little slow start, a couple fights here and there in the first and second period. The third period and the overtime were exciting, but beyond that, it really looked like, you know, the Lightning were just trying to drift through this game. So it was kind of like boring to watch for the first two periods, but it got better.
Yeah, I'll tip my hat to Mrazek, who played really well. I think one of the big things, I think Tampa Bay kind of had this game. There was a time in the second period, Detroit had 18 shots in the second period, 4 in the first. So the first period was super boring. Lightning's PK did a great job in that second period when they were on the PK a lot. The thing that I noticed the most was that Tampa Bay power play. Like, this game easily could have been in favor of Tampa Bay a lot more than it was. And then I can't wait to talk about Detroit. There was a lot of guys I liked on Tampa Bay, but like, Detroit's in trouble, I believe, for their future if they want to get back in the playoffs again. But hats off to Tampa Bay for getting it done in the end. They needed the points. Doesn't matter how you get it, how ugly it looks. They got them, and there were a lot of young guys that impressed me on Tampa Bay because, you know, I don't get to watch a lot of Tampa Bay Lightning games, and watching that like point and watching Drouin play for a full 60 minutes is really fun to watch. And we'll get into what we think of Tampa Bay moving forward, but they impressed me with no Tyler Johnson, no Stamkos. Obviously, that's been most of the year. But for a team that traded away some pieces at the trade deadline and they're right there in the playoff hunt, good job.
Did that happen to just me?
No, it happened to me too.
Okay. I don't know if Adam got that too, but it was like kind of fuzzy, loud sound. Like, well, when he was talking for like 2 seconds and then it stopped, it was weird.
Test.
It sounded like you're like a wrestling announcer. You're like the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah. That's my app, man. That's an app.
It was weird. Anyways, yeah, throwing out the point about Detroit's youth, I think the best player for Detroit in this game was actually their goal scorer, Zetterberg. He scored in this game, and he also dominated the overtime. I did kind of go in and out of this game, so I didn't catch every single detail of the game, but I got basically the best parts and most of the game in there. And I just thought Zetterberg, you know, overall was the best player. And he actually looks like the best he's looked in a while, because Zetterberg, to me, hasn't really stuck out as one of the better players in the league for a long time. But they even threw out this really wacky stat that I just started laughing at when they were like, Zetterberg has the second most primary assists in the NHL. I'm like, really? Like, it's such a weird stat. Like, nobody takes that stat. But yeah, it was an interesting game overall. You guys, obviously this was a big 2 points for Tampa Bay. What did you see from them? Do you think they'll be able to squeak in there? And if you think they'll be able to squeak in into the playoffs, what do you think is their biggest asset and maybe will be their downfall if they do make it in the playoffs?
That's an interesting question there, Mitch, because it is getting very competitive in the East. You cannot deny that. I mean, the Bruins have fell off of us as of late, but the Islanders actually look like they're a team once again because the Islanders have been off and on all season. So you got 3 teams, if you include the Tampa Bay Lightning, who look really threatening in this Eastern Conference to take that last wild card spot. Honestly, the biggest thing that's going to hurt the Tampa Bay Lightning this year, that's already hurt them, is definitely injuries. I mean, you look at who they have out right now: Garrison, Johnson, Stamkos, Kokenoke, Paquette. The list goes on. And if they can get those guys back, I think it's no brainer that they will be able to pull off this upset and become a wild card team. But I did not see enough this game really to entice me enough to say for certain if they're going to be that wild card team or not, because their young guns really did not stand out that shocking to me. It more looked like a Syracuse crunch game to me than it looked like a Tampa Bay Lightning game to me.
Interesting. Interesting analysis. Syracuse crunch.
That's a good jersey, by the way. And we're going to get some jerseys. Syracuse crunch jersey for Trent. No, I agree. I think their problem might be their bottom six. A lot of, like you said, a lot of Syracuse crunch. But I was super impressed by Braden Point, how he's come along this season. And Drouin, when you watch him play, like on the power play, the guy can do it all. And it's really crazy to think that just last year there was all that drama and how quick that ended. Being like,
well, he was great. He was great in the playoffs, so that kind of just ended it pretty much right there.
No, yeah, and his points he's putting up. No, I'm saying before that though, like the whole not
the whole
right?
I know, like the whole thing during the regular season, kind of just there was like this big rumor mill about Drouin possibly getting traded, and then once the playoffs started, he kind of like ended that, right?
Yeah, and then like just watching him play like a full 60-minute game, he's all over the place. Kucherov, amazing player, and then you have good role players like Killorn and Palat doing their thing. I did call on the Puck It Up podcast. I did say Tampa Bay was the team that was going to get in. Obviously, they're 1 point behind the Islanders, and obviously Boston's in there now too. But Islanders have a game on hand on Boston and Tampa Bay, so it's interesting to see. I watched a little bit of the New York Islanders game. They look pretty decent, almost more decent than Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's been playing so well lately. If they keep it rolling, it's going to come down to maybe a point or two in the end. But I do like what they've built without the top guys. Yzerman's done a good job putting the team. And then I think John Cooper every year might be the one, maybe not underrated now, but he's just an amazing coach. And I think he puts those players in a position to do well.
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay is one of those teams that just has a lot of like really skilled players that are underrated. Like even their best player, Kucherov, like is super underrated across the league. Nobody ever brings him up when talking about the best players in the league. He had 2 points in this game, including the game winner, where he kind of set like a lacrosse or basketball pick. He kind of rolled inside, got the pass, and tipped it in the net. It was a nice goal. Zetterberg was complaining about some interference, but you see that all the time. Like I was watching the Penguins and Islanders game, and that happened like numerous times as well. So it happens all the time. I think, the interference is a little, it's just, there's a fine line between that. Palat is another guy that you look at. He scored tonight. He's kind of underrated in that facet. Point, like you said, one of the younger players that's coming up. Drouin is a very dangerous player. I mean, every time I watch the guy, whenever he gets the puck, he's super dangerous. He has great speed, great skill, can shoot the puck. Even their defenseman to a certain degree. Hedman is a very good defenseman. He's very good at hockey, as I tell Trent every once in a while. He's underrated, and Strawman even is a little bit underrated. They just have a lot of underrated players that maybe because a lot of them are kind of European, people don't recognize how good they are. But Tampa Bay's been a very good team, and this has kind of been their worst year in the last few years. But with all these injuries, I think you got to give them credit for what they are doing, especially the top guys on the roster like the Kucherovs for stepping up.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it's hard to believe if you think about it, coming into this season, your 2 best forwards are Johnson and Stamkos. Like Kucherov still had a little clout. But the season he's had now, he's put himself into elite level, almost, pretty close. But just look at the stats, and I think he's going to keep that up, right? So no matter what happens this season, I think the future is somewhat bright for the Tampa Bay Lightning moving forward.
Yeah, I think you guys nailed it like right on the head. Also, they got rid of a lot of salary cap in this current season as well, with dishing off Bishop and Filppula, and it doesn't seem to be hurting them that much because, as you guys said perfectly, their depth is stepping up in the role. All that they have the problems with is their injuries right now. They need to get those injured players back into their NHL roster ASAP.
So what do we think about Detroit's roster? What did we see positively tonight? What did we see negatively? Because they did have a competitive game in this one against a team that is probably better than them, at least skill-wise and at least in the standing. So what did you guys see from Detroit I know that AC said they're in trouble, and I'd like you guys maybe to expand on why.
Well, I'll go first because I'm sure AC has a lot of really good points that he'll bring up. But I mean, what I saw that I really liked from the Detroit Red Wings is not a heck of a lot, actually. I mean, I think that there were only 3 really good players on Detroit this game, and that was Mrazek, Zetterberg, and Xavier Ouellet. Besides that, the rest of the team just kind of decided to kind of hang out there. I mean, we've been talking about Riley Sheahan for a long time, you and I, Mitch, about how he has no goals in this entire season, and he's like their second or third line center, and he needs to start getting it done. Besides that, I mean, you look at Mike Green, who's making $4, if not $5 million. I think that he was extremely disappointing this game. Only had 1 shot on goal, 1 block. I think he gave away the puck a couple of times. And it's just the kind of thing where, personally, I find that Detroit's way too old now. They've had so many years of being so good and being that dynasty of making the playoffs for the past 28 years in a row. Now they have no youth, and they need to stock up on some youth because their youngest guy in the minors is like 27, 28 years old, which is no longer a prospect.
Yeah, they're kind of lacking for those prospects. And once Zetterberg goes, because I knew the team was going to be in trouble once Datsuk left. That's why, we talked about them missing the playoffs this year for like the first time in forever. And then this season, you really seen what happened without Datsuk. What's going to happen when Zetterberg leaves? Because he's 36. They constantly brought that up during the game. So he's probably their best player still. There's guys like Larkin who have been stepping it up. But what's going to happen? They don't have any of those first-line players like Tampa Bay does. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think their bright spot, I'll start with what I think the bright spot is. I do like Mrazek. He's only 25, so that's a little even before the goaltending prime is normally like 27, 28, right? 26, 27, 28. Their defense, like you said, like Cronwall's just getting older. They can't do what they used to do. They used to have Lidstrom who could play 25 minutes and be, the best defenseman in the NHL, maybe best defenseman in the last 30 years. You don't have that guy. You have Cronwall and Green, which is a very weird pairing to me because I think Cronwall is past his prime now. He was good, but more because he played with Lindstrom. Now he's playing with Green. They're getting older. There are a couple of the young guys like Jensen that look good, but that's still like maybe a year and a half away, maybe 2 seasons away. And then when you're looking at your forwards, like obviously I'm always a big Zetterberg fan. I really like, if you look this season, like he's still the last 3 seasons of putting up at least 60, 65 points a year, which is decent. I'm not sold on Nyquist and Tatar. I think they're good players, but I think they'd be unbelievable second line players for a playoff team. I don't think they can be first line players because they're still only 25, 26, which is decent. And then going back to Larkin actually is probably having a huge sophomore slump. He only played 15 minutes in this game. And if you're a team already out of the playoffs, you're putting him with Sheahan and Mantha. Mantha, to me, for Vancouver fans, it seems a little bit like for Tannen. They gave him tons of time, and he still really hasn't hit his stride.
Mantha was terrible in this game.
Yeah, and he was a guy that was he was a first-round pick, big body, right away, good shot in juniors. You put up a lot of points in juniors. You're thinking he's going to go be a solid player. And then Larkin put up 44 points, I'm pretty sure, 20 and 20, which is decent for his rookie season. And he only has 27 points right now with 10 games to play. And like I said, only 15 minutes. I don't know, maybe, Blashoff, the coach, right?
Yeah. I think some people like the thing with Larkin, though, is I'll give him a break because I don't know if he's playing with a great supporting cast.
Oh, no, definitely. Yeah, he played with Sheahan and Mantha.
One of the guy that's on his line doesn't even have a goal.
Yeah, no, for sure. And no, but that's what I'm wondering what the coach